So there I was, sitting in my room all alone, staring blankly at a wall, thinking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as one does, wondering which Joestar I should gas up next. Just then, a ravioli bursts through my window, lands in my room, and I think to myself, this is fate. I'm not talking about a Joestar. I'm talking about the Giovanna. I apologize. But then I realized I can't talk about Giorno alone. I'm obligated to talk about him within the context of one of the best, if not the best, anime protagonist crews, Team Bucciarati. And this time I'm not sorry. So today, my cutie patooties, we're talking about the golden girls of the Golden Wind. Starting, of course, with Giorno Giovanna. So when the part first starts, we know nothing about him, but his first appearance is so drippy, so cool. The first thing we see him do is steal money from the Huz, fight a loser named Luca, and then steal from someone who is -4 feet tall. And while all of this is super cool, what the hell on God's green earth is up with the ear? I know people can do this in real life, but not this. He turns his ear into a butthole. I would go so far as to say this is the most bizarre thing in JoJo's. I mean, look at this. Obviously, these people are like, dude, what the hell is going on right now? This guy's insane. And Giorno's got that devious glint in his eyes, thinking, wait till they see what I can do with the other ear. Now, he starts off as a healer and skirmisher, which is pretty cool. And then he ends up as a tanky DPS, healing long range, short range, haxy, team fighting, support, carry. And you know, I'd go so far as to say that I left a lot out of that. In short, he's a bit of a Gary Stu. Don't get me wrong, Golden Experience is very cool in practice and in theory, but when you couple that with everything that I just mentioned, including his cool demeanor, you really do get a Gary Stu. But he doesn't even stop there. He's also Mr. Worldwide and Martin Luther King Jr., and because this is an anime, his dream was much more easy to complete. So the man's really got it all. The one thing he might be missing is being the child of someone extremely sexy and popular. But he's also Dio's son, and here I included a picture of the idea of being Dio's son because we did nothing with this idea in part 5. But then when the series decides to do something with the idea of being Dio's son, this is what you end up looking like. Now he's also dramatic as fuck, but in a super nonchalant way. Look at the way he's grabbing that gun. I'm sure you can't even notice the fact that he manurgled his way into Mista's waist. And yes, JoJo characters are dramatic in general, but I think Giorno is where it gets really over the top, until of course the 7-page Muda. This is not nonchalant in the slightest. I'll put some respect on his name for this one, though, because I feel like we've all been in this situation, either in real life or online, or we know of someone where you just want to rail on them for like 45 seconds straight, and he's got goated music. You know, as soon as he starts losing, he's busting out the piano, and you fucked. Is the music overused? Probably. Do I overuse the music? Almost certainly. But will I stop? No, because it is that goated. Unfortunately, he still loses to Joker, and at the end of the day, he's 15 years old. Because to be a gangstar, to be the leader of a gang, you have to be a minor. So I googled Giorno Giovanna, 15 years old, and this is the picture that came up. It reminds me of you guys, really, but there's something I want to address. Giorno Giovanna's lack of development. This is what people talk about all the time. I will concede that he has the least amount of personal growth in all of Part 5, and that is something you can knock him for. However, the rest of the crew carry with their own growth. And this isn't only through actions and fighting, this is also through character interactions and dialogue. In particular, a lot of people's favorite characters, Bucciarati, says that Giorno sets him on the straight path after beginning to lose himself. And I think that's all very interesting and makes sense narratively because Giorno and his stand serve to make others grow by putting life into them. So if Giorno's not growing, obviously the rest of the crew needs to pick up the slack, and they do. So I will say that while it's not ideal from a main character angle, the narrative implications are totally fine. Giorno doesn't need to be your favorite JoJo, he's not mine and he's not my favorite character in Part 5, but you can't deny that he is critical, he is the catalyst to making your favorite character probably your favorite character. Which brings me to my favorite character, Bruno Bucciarati. Not like JoJo, he has an interesting introduction where he licks people. He can sense if people are lying based on the taste of their skin. His clothes give away his stand ability because this man with an unbuttoned shirt and zippers, he must have the happy ending massage stand. Like, okay, this is not that important, but it is important because we're gonna cover that in just a sec. He has very dubious hair. If you have a haircut like this, good luck. And yet he's still a dripped out panty dropper. Look at him coming out of this zipper. But what makes him such a great character is that he is the base leader of the group, and understandably so. This guy is de facto gang Mother Teresa. Everybody loves him, and it makes sense. He helps kids, he helps the elderly, he helps his friends, he has a code of conduct and a lot of conviction. I mean, he should have been a doctor, dude. That way he could legally kill and save people. And because we see his convictions, because we see his actions, I would go so far as to say that he is low-key actually the main character in Part 5, or at least a deuteragonist, or at least a co-main character with Giorno Giovanna. Now, he also has an incredibly creative stand and fights. I think JoJo needs to do this in general more, where people don't just send their stand off into battle like a Pokemon. Bruno gets up in there, fisticuffs, Sherlock Holmes style. I'd do that too. I'm also looking at this picture now, and I feel like sticky fingers could scare the bejesus out of you. I mean, he pops out of a hole, fuck you, sucker punches you, goddamn. Creative. He is absolutely an anti-hero, like I said. A lot of people are saying that Bruno Bucciarati is a saint. No, that's not the point. He is a murderer. He's killed a lot of people, wrong people in a lot of ways, but he has a backstory and a code of conduct, not a Clash of Clans, that make you root for him. That's what makes him so great. I'm a sucker for willpower because I relate to that. He survived death through willpower alone. This is such a main character moment, dude. You don't see Giorno doing that. Bucciarati says, I have to succeed in this mission that doesn't even have anything to do with me because I am that guy. But he is a liar. As fuck. Exhibit A. This is the only exhibit I need. Gang members in this city hate standing out. So even the capos will dress normally to blend in with the crowd. You mean that guy over there with the orange eyeballs, the pink shirt, and the no pants is not a capo? Okay. Bucciarati. I don't know why it was so important for him to lie to the audience within 4 seconds of starting Part 5, but he's also 20 years old. Curse you, Shonen. It's just unbelievable. So overall, Bruno, absolute goat. And then we move on to Guido Mista, whose name is not a slur, but a name, you uncultured swine. He is by far the chillest member of the crew. I'd go so far as to say that he's the coolest. Not in the same nonchalant, cool way as Giorno, but he's the cool that you'd want to be friends with. He's the freest thinking gang member. When he's in the restaurant talking about meats and why we wouldn't eat humans, you know, it brings some philosophical questions up to you. And you can see in this panel that he's talking about cats. That's going to be important as a sec. He is the gunslinger of a group. We need to fill out our team comp, and his stands are boys. We've had sentient stands before, but these guys actually have a dope relationship, so you already know that Mista is the guy. But despite everything, him being cool, him being Aristotle, him being Arthur Morgan but not as cool, him being popular, he is still ruthless. As a gang member should be. What he did to Zucchero, sorry Italians, he took a fish hook and opened his eyes so that his retina burns in the sun. My man. And then he also has nasty willpower, because when he was fighting Frozone, you already knew he was gonna die. But somehow, he made it out alive. Thanks, Giorno. Healer, skirmisher, fighter. Appreciate that one. He's just such a cool character. Like Bruno, whenever he's on screen, you want to root for him. And he's also scared of cats, because when he was younger, a cat clawed out his friend's eye. No, wait, he's scared of the number 4 for that reason. But hey, anime doesn't need to make sense, and tetraphobia is a real thing. Apparently, he's also got gun limitless, because what is this, 5 bullets? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You can't tell me this stand awakens in this moment, and they all miss. It's either gun limitless, or these guys have brain dead stands. I gotta say though, no matter how stupid you think this panel is, it's kinda cool, dude. Not a single shot hit Mista. Oh my god, dude, so sick. Let's move on to Narancia. Narancia's very straightforward. He's just a little fella. He's a little bit annoying, especially to the crew. He's not very smart. I really like Little Bomber in the fights that he has, but the way he uses it leaves a lot to be desired. He's definitely a femboy. You can't tell me that you thought that this was a boy as soon as you opened Part 5. And he has no personal tie to the narrative. This is my biggest issue with him. Yes, he eventually establishes a relationship with Trish, but he has no reason to follow the crew other than being part of the crew, really. And he fails at basic math, something I cannot forgive. As someone who graduated from Leland Stanford Junior University, established November 11th, 1885, I think. However, he is the heart of the team and he is incredibly loyal. This scene is heartbreaking. We'll get to that in just a sec. He makes you feel what he feels. And you understand these types of characters, they are the kids, you just kind of want them to succeed. Unfortunately, he got cheated out of a death scene. He was just kind of left for dead, so rest in peace. Oh wait, that's Giorno. Okay, we're good then. Then we move on to Abbacchio, whose first scene is making the main character drink piss. Now, Giorno does this, and he gets around it by making his tooth a jellyfish. You could not catch me doing that. How the hell did he stream all of that piss into one direct tooth? There was no backsplash? Surely you jest. His personality contrasts the group. I know a lot of people don't like him, but you need a character like this to add juxtaposition. Not only that, but his design and his stand are sick, and they serve to complement his personality. I mean, he looks like a gay Sephiroth. A gayer Sephiroth. much gayer Sephiroth. And then his stand also makes sense from a backstory perspective. He was a police officer that had to relive memories of letting his partner die over and over again. I like when stands do that. They're supposed to be an extension of yourself. In Giorno's case, he's just that guy. But very importantly, Abbacchio also has a cool, healthy, sexy torso, just like my boy Satoru Gojo. And he has a critically important death that actually shows a lot of character points and how they're supposed to interact with one another. This is the first real big thing that they had to face. And again, it was heart-wrenching, especially from Narancia's perspective. It was kind of clear based on his character backstory that he was gonna die, but I like that JoJo's at least kills off side characters. It makes it feel like there's weight to the story. Unfortunately, he was left on the beach for kids to find. And then we move on to Pannacotta Fugo, who is by far the weakest written member of the group. Yeah, he just doesn't have a lot of interaction with the rest of the group, nor does he have singular scenes. He's also the weakest member of the group. I do not want to hear that Purple Haze is busted OP. First of all, it doesn't work against smokers or vapors. Second of all, you can't tell me that a stand that is literally antagonistic against yourself is strong. You might die using it. Yeah, the power itself is strong, but that's like nuking yourself. And he was supposed to be a traitor. That was scrapped due to Araki not being in the best mental health, I believe, and that's why he's the weakest written member of the group. That being said, he made the smartest decision in anime history. When his crew told him, "Come with us to this dangerous mission," he said, "No." Unfortunately, he had a lot of potential, we just didn't get to see it. I think that the antagonistic relationship with the stand, especially because it's supposed to be an extension of your soul, personality, that would have been really cool to explore. We just didn't get to see it. So in that sense, Fugo, L. And then we've got Trish, who's not really a member of the crew, but I feel like we should cover her anyway. She definitely has daddy issues, and she has an interesting idea where her backstory makes sense. She is the child of the main villain, but doesn't act like him. Unfortunately, she's just not that useful until the end. In fact, the turtle she was inhabiting, I thought was A, cooler, B, more useful than her for half of the part 5 story, and she does have a cool stand, but we just don't get to see it that often. Also, very interesting power, but ultimately she's mostly a narrative device, but I don't dislike her. I've heard people call her Team Bucciarati's lose condition, which I kind of agree with. At least at the end she helps a little bit, but compared to like part 6 JoJo's, she's just not written all that well. But let's talk about her father. I feel like that's at least worth talking about. We don't even really have to talk about him, but I want to say this dude is nuts. People don't give him enough credit for being the unhinged psychopath that he is after fucking keeping his mom alive with her mouth shut tight. Like, dude, everything bad that happens in part 5 is directly related to Diavolo, including Cioccolata, who is enabled by this guy. He has a super interesting gimmick with Doppio, maybe one of my favorite gimmicks in all of JoJo's. Incredibly enticing every single time it was on screen. Pretty bizarre, wouldn't you say? Talking to a banana, talking to a frog. And he's got a pretty weak motivation for a JoJo villain, but this is a video about Team Bucciarati and the Golden Girls. His King Crimson and Fate is an interesting idea. It was an introduction to Fate in JoJo's, but they do such a poor job of explaining it. Literally just explain it like you're watching a movie, and then you fast forward 10 seconds into the movie, but the only person that knows what happened in those 10 seconds is Diavolo. Boom. King Crimson. Dunzo. And last but not least, we talked about this in Bucciarati's slide, but what are you wearing? You're the leader of Passione, and this is what did Venom Spider-Man shoot his fucking webs on you, dude? What is going on? And then you have a love child with someone in Anasui was born. But man, these gangsters, they need to learn a thing or two. So in conclusion, what can we say about the Golden Girls? Well, first we've got a main character who isn't the primary developmental focus. And yes, that might make you not like him as much as a main character, but it can work if you have unique side characters who all have cool gimmicks, stories, backgrounds, interactions within themselves. I would go so far as to say that they work together better than any other JoJo part. I mean, they made this dance choreography without ever rehearsing it, talking about it, practicing it, while torturing someone. And they only really work together for a week, if you include Giorno. This is what your League of Legends comp should ultimately look like. Again, you need a healer, skirmisher, tank, bruiser, AD carry support. Yes, I like when teams and media have this. I mean, imagine having friends, and let me preface this by saying this is actually absolutely not me, that are willing to play anything other than DPS. That's these guys. Bucciarati and Mista are mega goats. I agree, they're my two favorite characters in part 5, but I think Giorno gets a little bit too much hate. Again, it works narratively, but ultimately, the crew makes part 5 what it is, and it makes it enjoyable. A stellar job. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Tell me how I did. Do you like part 5? Do you like the Bucciarati crew? If you've never seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure before and you stumbled upon this video, what do you think about these characters? Who's your favorite? I feel like my storytelling prowess has evolved into storytelling prowess requiem. If you have any suggestions for future videos, any games to play, series or characters to cover, real world things to do, let me know in the comments down below. Everything I do for you. Go check out other videos on the channel. We've got a whole library of variety content, something for everybody on this channel. And until next time, I'll see you. Goodbye. Cue the music.